All right, call all Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah, by Hashem Akakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone, and salutation to you brothers that's pushing the word in sincerity and truth. All right, so as you can see on the screen, here's the debt, the United States national debt, which as you can see on the screen is at $22 trillion. It just hit the threshold of $22 trillion, and it's counting as we sleeping. The United States is accumulating debt. Okay, and like I said in previous videos, this is unsustainable. The elder apostle Tazayawan at the camp, because he was in brothers was in Baltimore. It was a spiritual weekend. It was full of surprises and excitement, through the spirit. But the big squeeze, he had mentioned the big squeeze. Okay, the squeeze of you American people, you Babylonians, where you're gonna have certain cuts, coming, and actually Donald Trump is proposing cuts to food stamps. All right, he's touting that this is one of the best economies. All right, so he's taking credit for the good, so-called good, but he's also going to take credit for this collapse that's about to come. And basically, what's being set up is people are against Donald Trump and his administration. Okay, you can clearly see that his foreign policy is not his own foreign policy; is the same foreign policy as his predecessors. And part of the foreign policy is the military spending. Okay, they're spending on their military to fight all of these wars and basically try to keep the hegemony. You have China and Russia. They are coming up as far as having stake in on a world playing field, and it's costing the United States of America to actually have to spend money, which is going to lead to their bankruptcy or into the crash of the dollar. And then you have to go into a restructuring phase, which is going to be the RFID microchip. And we know that pursuant to Revelation 13 and 16, because this debt is unsustainable. Now, here was an article. It says U.S. national debt tops 22 trillion for the first time, and this is from Market Watch. The source is Market Watch. Here's the guy that wrote this, Jeffrey Bartash. Now it says the United States national debt topped a record 22 trillion this week, less than a year after it crossed the 21 trillion mark. So they're spending money at a record pace, and this is unsustainable. It only took less than a year, from going to 21 trillion to 22 trillion, indicating a further deterioration in the in the nation's finances. Now, the word deterioration, we're going to look it up real quick. It says the process of becoming progressively worse. Okay, and that's what you're seeing in America. You're seeing America, not only the finances but the morals. Okay, you got a lot of police shootings and all of that stuff. It's a combination. Okay, the great squeeze is on. Okay, pretty soon you people are gonna start losing jobs. These regular average people, they're gonna start losing jobs. Okay, they're gonna start losing equity in their houses. Okay, they're gonna lose their transportation, their means of transportation, because they're not gonna be able to afford their vehicles. All right. It says the Peterson Foundation said the U.S. national debt has risen by 1 trillion in the past 11 months, calling it the latest sign that our physical situation is not only unsustainable but accelerating. Yeah, because it only took 11 months to spend $1 trillion. Okay, and you see that it's accelerating. This never stops. Okay, this never stops. You see all of the breakdowns: credit card debt, student loan debt. Everything in the red is debt. Okay, everything in the red is debt. And then you have the budget items that have to be taken care of: defense spending, which this number right here, defense and wars, this is combined the after America, the top 10 countries after America that spends their money on military defense don't even spend this much money. Okay, All right, the federal pensions, you have net interest and debt, you have Social Security liabilities, Medicare and Medicaid, and all of this stuff. This has to be paid, which this is going to get cut too. These are the first things that are going to be cut when basically when this country goes bankrupt. So that you're going to have people taken to the streets because people are not going to be getting their Social Security, their Medicare and Medicaid, okay, you know, federal pensions, all of this stuff. Okay, it says the foundation drew its estimates from the Treasury Department daily statement on the government financial assets and liabilities. The group has long called for reducing the national debt to ensure the nation's long-term financial health. It says we already pay an average of $1 billion every year in interest on the debt, and will spend a staggering $7 trillion in interest costs over the next decade, asserting Michael Peterson, CEO of the foundation, in order to build the strong and stable future that we want for America. But we know that Babylon, there's no strong and stable future, okay, for this country. All right, the future of this country is thermonuclear destruction at the mouth of the Heavenly Father, okay, through the Lord's servants, the prophets, because they saw the vision of America being destroyed. Okay, it says economists agree the U.S. will suffer in the long run if government fails to rein in the debt, but that day may still be long way off. So basically here they try to lull you to sleep with this real quick, but we know that it's a lie. The destruction is coming. All the signs and all the prophecies are here. The only thing that needs to take place is this microchip in this third world war, which these things are going to come, okay, in a culmination of events that's going to take place in the soon, not if it's not if it's going to happen a long time off. It's when it's going to happen, and that time it's going to happen is going to be soon. All right, so I'm going to go into the scriptures real quick to bring out some edification. Okay, this is Proverbs 22:7. It says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." So you have to ask yourself, where are all these interest payments going to? Who is funding, okay, the United States government? And we know that who's funding it is the elite international bankers, the ones that set up the Federal Reserve banking system, okay, which is a fractional reserve system, which is nothing but a fraudulent system, okay? And it says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." Okay, so the American government, okay, through the United States Treasury, they borrow their money from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, in turn, okay, prints out the money, okay, which is not backed by gold or silver, okay, because they're a central bank, which they do fraud. All right, they back in 1917, they had Woodrow Wilson pass the Federal Reserve Act. Okay, I think it was 1917, 1918, around that time. Okay, basically when he sold out the American people, and that's how America became a borrower. Okay, and that's how the rich oligarchs that had stake in the Federal Reserve System created in 1913 on Jekyll Island, that's how they became rich. Basically, that's how they stole from the American people, so to speak. Okay, and the reason why you have all this debt is because you don't follow the scriptures. Now, when you read in Deuteronomy, the 15th chapter, you find out that there's a year of release. Okay, so you go to Deuteronomy 15:1. It says, "At the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release. And this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release." Now, this was made amongst the children of Israel, okay, back during the time of Moses. This is Moses in the book of Deuteronomy, the 15th chapter. Okay, every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. So if these devils that call themselves Jews, okay, which we know them to be Amalekites, if they followed the laws of the Heavenly Father, you wouldn't have this much debt. Okay, but this is how they make their money. They make their money off of usury. Okay, letting countries borrow money, okay, and exacting usury upon them. So because the longer you hold that debt, the more money that the banks make off of usury, which usury is interest on those debts. So we had in our system back during the time of us being Israelites, we had a law where every 7 years thou shalt make a release. Okay, now let's look up the word release. Okay, the word is Shemai. I think Tazah, I believe. Or some Shemai ta, I believe. Now, now that's the word for release. It means letting drop of exactions, temporary remitting, release from debt, remission of debt or suspension of labor, release. Okay, so we had a time where and it's mentioned in Deuteronomy 15:9, we had a time where, after a certain amount of years, you would release people. You will release a debtor from his debts. Okay, your neighbor. Now Deuteronomy 15:3 says, of a foreigner thou may exact it again, but that which is thine with thy brother thine hand shall release. Okay, so if you had a foreigner, okay, you could exact it again, but if it was towards your brother, okay, you have to release him from those debts, all right, or whatever type of work that he had, and that was our system. That's how we got down. That was righteous to do that amongst your brother, okay. But see, this devil, he doesn't do it. He doesn't uphold the laws, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures. Okay. Now this is the book of Habakkuk. This is the book of Habakkuk 2:5. It says, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as deaf, and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And this is the characteristics of the red Hebrew Edomite, which you would call him today the so-called white man. He transgresseth by wine. Okay, what is that wine? That wine represents philosophies. Okay, it says he is a proud man, and that's one of his characteristics. He's a proud man. Neither keepeth at home. Why? Because he's in all of these other nations. Okay, basically pushing democracy. Why is he in Venezuela? Okay, why is he in Syria? Okay, why is he in Yemen? All right, why is he he has his military. If he doesn't have his military, he has a proxy military, or it could be another country. All right, and he's supplying them with weapons to fight another nation. It says, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as deaf, because everywhere he goes he brings death, and cannot be satisfied. He cannot be satisfied with that. Okay, it says, but he gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. All right, and that's the characteristics of the Roman Empire. Okay, they gathered themselves together, all nations, and heapeth to themselves all people. Okay, because back during the ancient time, Rome was a great metropolis. We had all nations coming together. Okay, just like America, they call America the melting pot. All right, it says, shall not all these take up a parable? In all of these nations, they're taking up a parable because they see that your debt is unsustainable. They see that you're spending all your money on your military. Okay, and basically they see you as a warmonger. Okay, because everywhere you go, you're bringing death. They don't look at you as the beacon of hope anymore. America's not looked in the sight of these nations as a great nation. Okay, a moral, upstanding nation anymore. All right, you're basically a bully. Okay, and you steal, you rob, all right, and you murder. Okay, and not only that, you're in debt, and you don't have any answers to your own problems. So how much more so the answers to the problems that take place in the world? That's why these nations are taking a parable up against you. It says, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. Yeah, because you're down there in Venezuela right now trying to steal the oil, trying to have your corporations come in, try to set up Guaido, which he's nothing but a Western puppet, and you're trying to take out a constitutional, okay, voted in, all right, a leader, which is Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. He's the head of Venezuela, and you're trying to dethrone him from the power seat in Venezuela. And those people don't want you down there. So they're saying, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him, like, how long are you going to be in power? How long are you going to be able to do this? It says, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. All right, so every person will read this and say, thick clay. What does thick clay mean? What is it referring to? Now you go into the scriptures, and brothers go through this, and that's why you got to look up the words in the Hebrew. That's why you go into the Hebrew, all right, because you go into the Hebrew, you get a better understanding, all right, of what the scriptures is conveying. He laid it himself with thick clay, and that word for thick clay, and this is how you know that this matches up to the prophecies, and this is completely biblical. Okay, U.S. national debt, and you know who the scriptures is talking about. All right. This is the word abatyat. Okay, abatyat. Now it says weight of pledges, heavy debts. Okay, something pledged, pawn goods, thick clay. All right, which this represents the thick clay, the national debt. Now these are some pledges down here. The defense spending. Okay, you have a certain amount of money allocated to the defense spending, Social Security, so on and so forth. And all of this. See, this is a good, when you go to this website, US Debt Clock, this is a good website. Now you can go, I can go back to the 80s and see how much, this was, in the 80s, the national debt wasn't even $1 trillion. Now it was approaching $1 trillion, but in the 80s it wasn't $1 trillion. Okay? The defense spending was only 125. All right, 125 billion. Now it's 600 some billion. Okay, the gross domestic product was more than was more than the national debt. All right, so you fast forward in time. Okay, you go back to 2004, and this is when the spending back in 2004 when President Bush was in office. The debt was only $7 trillion. Okay? The debt was $7 trillion. And you niggas that like Barack Obama, okay, let's fast forward to 2008, before Obama got into to office, or when he took office, the debt was only $9 trillion. Okay, over 9 trillion. Okay? Now, when Obama left office, let's go to 2016. The debt was $19 trillion. So you had that influx of spending on these wars and all of that. Okay? So Obama was no good either. And with Donald Trump in office, with Donald Trump in the office, the debt is now $22 trillion, and it's accelerating. Okay? It's accelerating, and look at what's on the board now. So, I just wanted to bring this out real quick. This article with the national debt. I'm gonna continue to say, man, this is unsustainable. Like I did another video a while back, talking about the national debt. It's unsustainable. It's going to lead to the bankruptcy in the fall, the collapse of the American dollar. The squeeze is on. Okay, the American people are going to pay higher prices. They're going to lose things. They're not going to get the same services that they're accustomed to. And their liabilities, their entitlements, so to speak, like Medicare, Social Security, those things are going to be cut. Pensions, they're going to be cut. Your bank accounts are going to be taxed. There's going to be runs on the banks. Okay, people are going to be trying to get their money out the bank, and all types of chaos that's going to take place because this country is in debt that's unsustainable, and these countries are dumping the dollar at an alarming rate. There's articles on that. Okay, and it's all pursuant to biblical prophecy. Okay, so with that, I want to give all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah. All right, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to you brothers. that's pushing this word in sincerity and truth. Until the next episode, shalom.